Hello YouTube. We are fixing to do a little modification to the Jeep Cherokee Trailhawk. Today we are going to try to finish this lift that we're going to install on the Cherokee. This is a 2021 Jeep Cherokee Trailhawk, and we are going to install the Hazard Sky 2-inch lift. Now, as you can see, I've already got it up on jack stands. Be sure your jack stands are on the pinch weld, and be careful when you're jacking it up and all that kind of stuff. Now, I will state now that I'm not responsible for any kind of injuries or any damage that you might do during this process. All I'm doing is sharing the way that I do it. I'm actually waiting for the lift kit to get here a little bit later today. Okay, since we're still waiting on parts, I thought I'd go ahead and move over to this side. I'm going to take the tire off, and I'm not going to put that on video. I just got one nut holding it on there, and I'm going to take that tire off, and then we will get to getting it ready to install the 2-inch lift. Okay, first thing about this is, like I said, I've already had this tire off and came over here and kind of cleaned everything up. And this is another one of the brackets I made for the ABS line. It'll just hang down like that, and I'll tighten it up and it won't move. The first thing you do, or I did, and once I got the tire off, is I popped this out. This part here was pointing up, so I flipped it around so it points down. That gives you there's an inch, over an inch right there of more line. But right here where it clipped in, Hazard Sky, they say you can slide these boots. You would slide this boot toward the motor and get another inch. But I could not get this to move, and I didn't want to pull on it any harder than I did. So I decided just to make my own little bracket. It's just a piece of metal. I drilled a hole and for the bolt to go through, and then I drilled a hole on this end and used a grinder to cut a slot so I could pop my boot inside there. And I still didn't think, I used the factory hole on this, and I wanted a little bit more, so I drilled another hole down lower, and that gave me another 1/2 inch or so. And I got it to where I think I'm happy. I've got plenty of line from here to this knuckle. Now, I have not taken the bolt out of this knuckle yet, and I have already pulled, if you see it, the dirt line right here, and then this is clean. I pulled this hose toward me until I got an inch, inch and a half, whatever we got there. And I think I've got enough slack here now for the 2 inches. If I don't, I've got a little bit more here I could pull. I kind of like it where it's at, and I think that's going to work fine. Now, after I install a 2-inch lift, if I still don't think this is loose enough here, I will make another bracket like this and put it on this side. But I don't think I'm going to need to. So now I'm going to remove this bolt in the knuckle right. Let's see. Here. That is a 18 millimeter. And then on this other side, you can use an 11 millimeter. I believe it 12 point. See if I'm getting this in here. Kind of, there it is right there. So right there, 12 point, 11 meter will work, and you're getting new bolts with the kit, so you're not going to have to reuse these. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to remove this bolt. So to remove that bolt, I've got a breaker bar with my, pretty sure that was 18. Where's that? 18 millimeter. And then this is a 12 point, 11 millimeter socket, and I may have to drive it on there just a little bit, but I've already taken the bolt off of the other side and it worked fine. So I don't know that I'm going to be able to hold this camera. Yeah, I may have to drive that on there a little bit. And then I'll use this breaker bar on this side. As you can see, I've got the 18mm on the bolt head with a breaker bar. This length makes it a lot easier breaking this loose. And then I have a regular size ratchet with the 11mm 12 point on this side. I put my jack handle over the ratchet and it's wedged up in there, so that's holding that side. And it makes it just easier to bust this loose, and I've already got it loose. So I'm actually going to take my breaker bar off and put a regular ratchet on there. So I've got my regular ratchet on there, and like I said, that other's wedged in there. So I'm going to finish removing this bolt just like so. See how loose it is, and then we'll pick up from there. Okay, so I've got the bolt out, and we're just going to lay that aside. It shouldn't be reused. There should be new bolts with the kit, and you can see the hole that it came out of. It slid right out real easy. And when you get your sleeves, you got a gap right here. I got a big old screwdriver, and you're going to be able to just pry this down. You can see it coming down, pops back up. But anyway, it's going to be easier to do once you get your sleeves, because you can pry this down the first inch. Just work it. Eventually it'll stay down a little bit better. There. Okay, and then you're going to put your first one in, and then you'll use that for leverage if you're using the pry method to put the second one in. And if it's too hard to pry, if I'm having too much issues, I'll do this exactly the same way I did the other side, and I'll show you how I do that. But until we get the collars in, we're really at a standstill, because I got to pry this down, slide the collar in, slide the other collar in, remount my lines, tighten it. Here I'll have everything tightened up and putting that bolt back in, but we'll get there in a minute. Okay, so we finally got the hazards guy lift in, and since I'm kind of crunched on time, I'm going to try to do an unboxing kind of quickly. We have the order form. It's double boxed. Got some packing material in there. Let's see. We've got the instructions. Big piece of foam. There's the famous gummy bears. Ashley will be getting those. And then here's the kit. It's all wrapped up. We'll get into more. These are going to be on the rear here. So I'm not on the rear yet. So they got the little pin already in them and everything, but these are for rear. These will be the collars for the front. 4 of those. This is actually the spacer kit for the rear that I went ahead and ordered too. These will be on the rear, and then here's the 2 bolts for the front. So basically these pieces right here are what we're fixing to put on the front. But that's what's in the box. Hi, before I did this, I'm just going to go ahead. We are really running out of daylight. As you can see, I got the scissor jack out of the trunk of the Cherokee. It fits nicely underneath the spring perch and the knuckle. It does push a little bit on your dust shield at your brake rotor. That's what that cardboard's there for. I have it in between the dust shield and the rotor, just for making sure the rotor does get scratched up, or I don't think there'd be an issue without it. But when you crank on the scissor jack, it'll push that dust shield against the rotor a little bit, but it's not going to hurt anything. If it bends in, you can just easily bend it back out with your thumbs. The pressure that you're applying is not much at all. I mean, if you use the pry method with screwdrivers, you're prying that pressure up, so it's not much pressure. But using this jack, it's easy to get the clearance you need to put the collars on the strut, and you can use both hands. You're not trying to hold a screwdriver, to keep the stuff apart and slap your collar in. I'm not saying that the pry method is not an easy way, or it's not the way to do it. This is just the way I chose to do it myself. And it is another consideration if you're doing this job by yourself. Didn't say anything about putting Loctite on these boats, and when I watched the videos online, I didn't see anybody putting Loctite on them. I did put Loctite on the big boat for just in case. That one's out. Alright, this will be the back side. Go this way. You will notice here I grab a screwdriver. I'm going to reach around the back side of the strut and pry the tab that's back there toward the engine bay just enough that the knuckle bolt, the big bolt, can pass back through the knuckle. From the factory there is a hole and the bolt slides through the tab. When you get your knuckle pressed down to the new location, you have your two collars in, that hole position changes and your bolt will not pass through it. So you have two options. You can drill that hole back out, or you can pry that tab out just a little bit so the bolt will pass through. I chose the pry back method, had no issues with it, and I have researched doing this from other people. MFC, they have used both methods. If you go to Moots KL, he actually drilled his out. Now, Moots has a complete install video on his channel also. So if you go to Moots KL, you will see his method of installing on his Jeep Cherokee Trailhawk. And it is a previous version before they changed the body style in 2019. So he's got a lot of good information there. You might see some things that he's doing clearer than what I've done here. I recommend you check out as many videos as you can of people doing this install. That way when it comes time for you to do yours, you know exactly what you're going to be doing. So with that, let's continue. Here I'm going to show you the tab that I was prying back. You can use pliers if you need to get it out enough that you can get a screwdriver in the hole, and then once that hole is visible, you can stick your straight slot screwdriver in the hole and pry that tab out. Now at this point, my strut collars, the spacers, have not been torqued down. They're just lightly hand tight. The plate tab that's in the back of the strut knuckle, it is pried back. I will insert my knuckle bolt, put the nut on, and go ahead and tighten this, torque it down to 84 feet-pounds. After the knuckle bolt is torqued down, I will make sure my strut collars are aligned with the brake bracket. The crack of the collars will line up with the same direction that the brake bracket is, and then you will torque those down to no more than 30 feet-pounds. I did use a little bit of medium or blue Loctite on the bolt that passes through the knuckle. I did not use any Loctite on the bolts in the collars themselves. Now I'm just tightening the collar bolts, and I will torque those to 30 foot-pounds. So basically at this point, once those are torqued down, the only thing left to do is insert the brake line and the ABS line back to the strut bracket. Okay, I got the brake line boot holder slid back probably about 1.5 inches, and I can clip it back in there. I think that's going to be plenty for when I get the lift on it. Once I do get the lift on it, I'll plug that in and I'll move it around, turn it, make sure there's plenty of room there. I'm pretty sure there will be. Now this one, I did go ahead and flip this, but I tried sliding this one as you can see, it's already pretty tight between this connection and down there. So we're going to need more slack here. And you're supposed to slide this boot up this line. And I tell you what, I pulled pretty hard. I was afraid I was going to damage something. So I just made my own relocation bracket. It'll bolt in this hole here, hang down, and this will clip in underneath. I'll go show you those now. These are the relocation brackets that I made. This will bolt to the bracket that's on the strut, and then the line will just slide up in this other end here. So I've got one for each side. So I don't have to worry about sliding them boots up. Now you can buy brackets from, I believe it's in MFC. You get the whole lift kit from them, and you know, we'll talk about that later. I got mine from Hazard Sky, and on theirs they don't come with relocation brackets. They just slide the boots on the lines, and you know, it works that way. But like I said, I was just having so much problem trying to slide that one boot that I just made these for my lines. Okay guys, it's getting dark, but I've got everything assembled again. Everything's lined up. Center of this, I've got my bracket on here for my ABS line, brake line, plenty of looseness there, and we're fully extended, so that's as tight as they should go. I will check when I turn after I get my tires on. In fact, I may do it right now. But I'm gonna put the tire on, but the front kit is complete. Okay, I've got off the jack stands. The front's done. Still have to do the back. Looks pretty good. Now I know it's still got to settle a little bit, but I measured underneath, and when I measured underneath, it was actually 2.5 inches more ground clearance than what I had. I'm figuring it's probably going to settle that 1/2 inch, so it's going to come out being 2 inches, I think. So okay, so I've got the wheel turned full passenger, driver's side here. And here's the ABS line. Plenty of slack there. Now we'll go ahead and check the line on this side. Passenger side, turn full passenger. Plenty of slack there. You see there's plenty of slack there. Everything's okay back there. Let's check the driver's side brake line with it turned full passenger. Still slack there. Plenty of slack up top. I don't know if y'all can see it, it's dark. Oh yeah. Now let's turn it the other way. Okay, we'll turn full. Turn full drivers. Everything's fine. Everything's fine there. Get down there so I can see a little bit better. Not an issue at all. Reach up here. Brake line's fine. So the front's done.